Wendy had done stopped counting somewhere around 1897. You see, that was the year that she realized she wasn't aging anymore. She had already buried 3 husbands by then. The third one took longer to suspect her. Oh, the first 2 had been easy. Sickness was common in those days, and people didn't question a devoted wife with red eyes and steady hands. But by 1897, medicine was improving, and people were asking more questions. And Wendy noticed something else. Her reflection hadn't changed in 20 years. Not a line, not a hollow, not a thread of gray. When her husband finally realized she looked younger than their grown daughter, he called her unnatural. He never got to finish the word monster. And she buried him behind the orchard. She stopped counting after that. You know, she realized that immortality isn't dramatic at first. There's no lightning strike, no bargain whispered in the dark. It's just subtle. You simply don't decline. And in 1863, Wendy survived a fever that killed half her town. In 1871, a house fire collapsed around her. She crawled from the ash, blistered but alive. And the burns, well, they faded in days. And in 1889, a man twice her size beat her within an inch of death. But she woke the next morning fine. That was when she understood. Time did not own her, but people still did. And people, well, they're fragile. Her very first intentional kill was not because of rage. Believe it or not, she was curious. It's only curiosity. He was a railroad foreman who liked to corner girls in supply ships. Everyone knew, but no one said anything. And Wendy watched him for weeks, studied the way power made him careless. She didn't poison him. She didn't stab him. And she did not struggle. She simply arranged for him to disappear in a way the world would accept. Because men like him, they wandered off all the time. The town probably assumed it was gambling debts. Wendy knew better. What she felt afterward was not guilt. Do not get it confused. It was balance. And something else. Relief. For the first time since realizing she would outlive everyone that she loved, she felt some kind of purpose. If she could not die, then she could remove those who should. Oh, and the decades passed. Wendy moved cities, about every 10 to 15 years. Every time she had a new surname, a new story, a new job that required minimal documentation. And the early 1900s, they were easy. The 1920s were even easier. And the wars made disappearance a common thread. She chose carefully predators, abusers, men protected by reputation, and sometimes women too. Not innocent and never random. At least that's what she told herself. And she refined her methods over time, not violently, not theatrically, quietly, efficiently. Situations where the world would supply its own explanation. Car accidents, drownings, vanishing acts during cross-country travel. And by 1954, she was no longer reacting. She was selecting. Immortality stretches morality thin. At first, Wendy had rules. No children. No impulsive decisions. No personal vendettas. But, the longer she lived, the more those rules felt, negotiable. Because perspective changes when you've watched entire generations repeat the same cruelty. She saw men who reminded her of men she had buried in 1912. She saw patterns in violence that never evolved. Humanity never improved. It just rotated. And somewhere in the late 1970s, something inside her shifted. She stopped investigating thoroughly. Now she trusted instinct. And instinct ain't justice. It is appetite wearing a moral mask. Wendy always said the hardest part of being immortal wasn't loneliness, it's memory. And Wendy remembers every single face, every breath that ever stopped, every pair of eyes widening in realization. She remembers their last words. Some cursed her and some begged. Some apologized for things she later discovered they hadn't even done. History gets blurry over centuries. Certainty erodes. She began keeping journals in the 1800s, and by 2026, she owned storage units full of them, leather-bound confessions in her own handwriting. Sometimes she rereads early entries and doesn't recognize the woman who wrote them. That woman sounded compassionate, measured, careful, and now she's just plain efficient, detached, and tired. And last week, Wendy met someone new, a historian, charming, intelligent, and persistent. He specialized in cold cases stretching back 2 centuries. He found patterns and disappearances across state lines. Similar circumstances, similar witness descriptions, a woman present briefly before each vanishing. Different names, but the same face. He showed her an 1897 photograph, a woman standing beside a fresh grave. Unaged, unchanged, it was her. He smiled gently when he showed it to her. I think she's still alive, he said, and I don't think she ever stopped. Wendy felt something she hadn't felt in decades. Fear. Not of prison, not of exposure, but of simple recognition. If someone could trace her pattern, then she was no longer predator. Now she was the prey. And that night, she followed him home, and out of habit, out of survival, but when she stood outside his door, something unfamiliar stopped her. Exhaustion. Not physical, existential. 200 years of correction, of punishment, of deciding who deserved to live and who deserved to die. And she realized something horrifying. She no longer remembered why she started. She only remembered that she could. Inside, the historian sat at his desk, adding her face to a board filled with photographs. Nah, he wasn't afraid. He was certain. Because he had discovered something else. Every 30 to 40 years, pattern stops for nearly a decade. No disappearances, no suspicious deaths, a complete pause. The same length of time it would take for an immortal body to recover from a catastrophic injury. He had found hospital records from 1923, 78, and 1979. Women admitted under false names, severe trauma. They were either hit by vehicles, some were found at the base of stairwells, and some were even pulled from rivers. All survived, and all vanished afterward. He wasn't hunting a monster. He was hunting someone who could be killed. And Wendy felt the truth settle like cold iron in her chest. She was not invincible. She was just durable. And durability has its limits. And for the first time in 160 years, she considered a future where she wasn't there. Not arrested, not exposed, just plain gone. The thought, it didn't terrify her. It felt quiet. she stepped back from the door. For the first time since 1897, she chose not to act. And inside, the historian looked up suddenly, as if sensing something. But Wendy was already gone, walking into the night. Not hunting, not correcting, just moving. Because the most disturbing realization of all wasn't that she might die. It was this: if she stops killing, she has to live with everything she's ever done. Forever.